In this example, I'm going to continue showing you the differences between relative and absolute cell referencing here in Excel. What I have here are three little math problems, and what I have three numbers, and I want to simply find the square root of these numbers. So that's simple enough. We take the value here of B4, so we're going to have an equal sign, and then the function is SQRT, and then the reference is at B4. So this little function here says equals the square root of whatever value is in B4. Select that, and we see that yes, 10 is the square root of 100. Now if I copy this formula straight across to the other two columns, then you'll see it gives me the correct values. 20 squared would be 400, so that's the square root. The square root of 900 is 30. And we look at the original functions, we'll see that we had here equals the square root of B4. And the way relative cell referencing works is that if I copy this formula or function across within the same row, then the only thing that will change will be the column reference. The row reference will not change. We'll see, come here, and we'll see that the B4, yes, the column reference changed, but the row reference did not change. Look here, we'll see that sure enough the column reference changed, but the row reference did not. And the reason this works, and this is what we mean by relative cell referencing, it means that the references in your formulas and functions will change based upon which way you're copying and moving these things in columns and rows. If you don't change the row, then the row number will never change. If you do change the column, then the column reference will change. Now what I want to do in this little example here is in this row right here, row 5, I just allowed you to see relative cell referencing work the way that it normally does. Now come down to row 6 and I want to throw in some absolute cell referencing. What I want to do here would be to take the value that we have here for the square root of 100 and multiply it times some multiple, and I just selected the multiple of 2. So down here I'll simply put in a formula equals the value that we found in B5 and then multiply that times the value that we have up here in B1. So think about where we are and think about where we're going to go with this thing. As the first side of this operation, B5, when I copy this formula over here to column C, the B5 should be what? I'm going to change column, so the B5 will become C5. It won't become B6 because I'm not changing rows, and it won't become C6. I'm not changing rows, and so the reference to row 5 here will always be row 5 because I'm just copying across, and that's okay. And the B will always be B as long as I'm in this column, but if I move it to column C, then this B is going to become C because I'll be here in column C. Now on this side of the operation, I have a little bit of a problem now because yes, as I have a reference here to row 1 and I'm going to be copying this across in the same row, the row will never change, and so the reference to row 1 up here will never change. So that's okay, but I do know that if I copy this formula from column B to column C, then the reference to column B here will change to column C. And my need here in this problem is to make sure that this B never changes. I have to nail it down. I don't want it to ever change. And the way we do that, this is what we call absolute cell referencing. I'm just going to put the $ in front of the B. And what this means right here, this means nail down the reference to the column. So don't ever change the reference to the column. So now if I accept that formula and then copy it across, you'll see here that my reference here to this column B and then staying with row 1. Then when I came here, column C, we have column B is still referenced because the $ nails it down, and the row I didn't have to worry about. The same way over here, that we have D5 times the same column B at row 1. So this is what absolute means. I nailed it down using the $sign. Now I could come in here and show you the shortcut one last time. This is the B1, and all I have to do here is have my insertion point. See the vertical flashing bar right here around the B1. That simply has to be touching that B1 anywhere. I can do it from this far end. And I hit the F4 key. F4 is a four-way toggle. So the first time I hit it, it makes everything absolute, column and row. The second time I hit it, it makes just the row absolute. The third time, it makes the column absolute. And then the fourth time, it takes it back to relative. So one more time, the four are all absolute, row absolute, column absolute, and back to relative. You don't have to remember the words. All you have to remember is that F4 is a four-way toggle. And it's a good way to help you get that $sign in the right place in your formulas so that you can accept it and then copy it across, and you're all done.